Hands down, my favorite exercise to do with any team, whether it be guys and girls that are on the ground or health and safety advisors or even procurement teams, especially procurement teams, and you'll get why, is to do what I call a priority wheel. And a priority wheel is really a guide to try and help a team, whoever it is, to arrive at a parameter or a scope of priorities that they feel are important to fulfill the task. So I've done this hundreds of times, and the very first thing that comes up is always, undoubted, it is always comfort. It's hilarious. So comfort, that's the number one thing. We all want comfort out of our gloves. Number two goes along the lines of dexterity, and number three goes into tactility. After tactility, we have breathability, and then after breathability, we have longevity. Longevity then leads into cuts, and then perhaps puncture. After puncture, we then get grip, and after grip, go, is there anything else? And everyone's going, well, there's something, and I go, procurement teams, don't you want cost? Remember, this is a priority for you guys. You want to try and pay nothing for the gloves that you want to obviously source for your teams. Let's take an example of a specific type of engineering environment and now plot that against our priority wheel and just see if there are any logical overlays and see if this actually makes any sense to you and whether or not this is something that you would like to adopt in your own workplace. So in an engineering environment, these are some of the observations that I've encountered, and having worked with multiple end users, these are the kinds of plottings that we would go for. So it tends to be, because they're wearing these gloves for 8 hours a day, that comfort is a number one priority. So that tends to be a very high scoring feature or priority that needs attention. Second to that would be the dexterity. Again, a massively high scoring feature. Tactility, you might compromise a little bit on tactility just because you're working with quite hard metals or you're working with harder substances or materials. And so you want a little bit of padding on your fingers, and that just gives you, a lesser of a need for tactility. Moving on to breathability, again, quite important, but at the end of the day, there are going to be oils involved in a lot of these environments. And so breathability, although high, might not be as maximum a priority as comfort and or dexterity. Then you move on to longevity. Again, everyone wants their gloves to last a long time. No one wants to go midway through shift and have to change gloves. No one even wants gloves to necessarily last for a day. Sometimes we've worked with engineers where they've actually worked with gloves for as much as 3 or 4 weeks. Being in this particular environment of engineering, you are going to be coming against sharp edges. This might be from metal pressing or elements of metal fabrication. And so as a result of that, cut becomes a very high priority. What level of cut and how we determine what that cut is, again, we will work with our health and safety advisor, and we will risk assess how much cut protection is needed, how much pressure is involved, how much exposure is going to be there. And we've got a separate video that we do that elaborates a little bit more on cut as well. Puncture might not be very high. And so again, some of the assessments that I've seen in some of these workplaces is that puncture, unless there are specific burrs that have not been able to be removed in the process, puncture doesn't tend to be a very high feature. Grip, however, because you're holding onto various materials or metals, that is very important. You don't want to be dropping these pieces of metal that have either come through pressing machines. So again, grip is very important. And then the last one is obviously cost. And this is the one that procurement always hate, because they always want gloves for free. And what we have is this wonderful clash between health and safety and the people on the ground, and then procurement going, I want it for free, but no, I want the right glove. And so what we will do here is we've said that cost actually is a very low priority, because the number one priorities are comfort. The number one priorities are dexterity and longevity. And what we will demonstrate is that by selecting a particular product, we might be able to offset cost in time. And that is what we obviously call cost and use. When we've done this wheel, we have actually got some fantastic gloves in our Traffi range, and one of those gloves that would fit this mold incredibly well would be a glove along the lines of the TG 5340. So I hope that gives you a good insight into how we would actually use a priority wheel, and also how you can marry that into your workplace to arrive at the right priorities for yourself.